When thinking about the main pillars that make up a SOC, we've identified people, processes, and technology. In this lesson, let's focus specifically on technology and discuss the types of tools that SOCs use to actually conduct operations at a hands-on level. And while we're going to cover multiple specific tools throughout the course, the high-level emphasis that I'm always going to put within this course is that we want to understand the methodologies and processes. Right? So it's crucial to recognize that tools are just tools, they evolve, they come and go. And while they have similarities between each other, they also have differences. So our goal isn't to become experts in any single tool immediately, but rather to grasp what they do, why they're used, and other methodologies around using them effectively within security operations. And you can see that there are quite a number of different types of tools that SOCs use. You may or may not use some of these in the field, or all of these. It's entirely dependent on your role and the size of the company and the actual capabilities of your SOC. But for the sake of being thorough, let's quickly go through each of these at a high level. So first we have the Security Information and Event Management System, or the SIEMs. And a Security Information and Event Management System is one of the most important components in modern cybersecurity infrastructure. So much so that it's often referred to as the heartbeat or the nerve of the SOC. SIEMs serve as a centralized platform for collecting, correlating, analyzing, and managing security event data in real time. So at its core, a SIEM system aggregates logs generated throughout all of our technology within the organization. And then we can employ advanced analytics and correlation techniques to identify patterns or trends or anomalies within the collected data. And by correlating events from various sources, using a SIEM, we can differentiate normal activity from potentially malicious behavior, which can help us on the security side detect and respond to incidents as they occur. And with a SIEM, we can integrate functions like log management, right? So collecting and storing and normalizing log data from all these different sources. But also real-time monitoring, so we can analyze the incoming data streams and in real time identify security incidents as they occur and get alerted on them. Which brings us, of course, to alerting and notification. So we can actually generate alerts within our SIEM, we can set up rules and thresholds to fire off notifications for suspicious activities or policy violations, which allow us to rapidly respond. Which of course brings us to incident response. And we also typically have dashboards and reports and visualization capabilities. So we can actually generate reports to share amongst the team or with senior management. We can do things like set up visualizations and statistics to support ongoing monitoring and compliance efforts. And lastly, we can do things like threat intelligence integration, so we can actually incorporate external threat feeds to enhance our detection capabilities. So let's quickly talk about the Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response Platform, or the SOAR platform. And this is more of a holistic solution and kind of like a SIEM on steroids that can combine the power and orchestration and automation with intelligent rapid response. And not all SOCs are going to have a SOAR solution built out, but it can save a lot of analyst and administrator time by automating repetitive response tasks. We're never going to entirely automate incident response, but SOAR solutions can certainly alleviate some of the manual work. And we can do that through orchestration, right? So with this orchestration capability, we can seamlessly collaborate and integrate between different security technologies like our SIEM, our threat intelligence, and different security controls like our firewalls and ACLs, identity and access management systems, so we can automate some tasks that usually require manual work. Which of course leads us to automation, and we can free up security analyst time to focus on more complex and high priority tasks. SOAR platforms can even do things like automated artifact collection. For example, if a reported phishing email comes through the platform, it can automatically conduct an initial analysis and extract specific artifacts and indicators like domain names or emails or IP addresses. And through using automated playbooks or runbooks, SOARs can help streamline incident response processes and ensure that we have a consistent and effective response every time. And we can also integrate things like threat intelligence and then generate reports and metrics from our SOAR platforms as well. So next we have incident management tools, and this is kind of like a catch-all kind of term. Because in general, incident management tools are solutions we have that are designed for the detection, analysis, but more so the resolution of security incidents within the organization's infrastructure. So they provide this centralized platform for us as a team to coordinate our efforts, collaborate, document progress, and also manage incidents effectively. So we can start using things like ticketing management systems that allow us as analysts to create, assign, and track incidents throughout the entire incident lifecycle. And these tickets can serve as a central repository for all the information related to each incident. And we can also link incidents together as needed. We also have alert management, so through these tools, we can integrate with our security monitoring systems like our SIEMs, or any of our detection and prevention solutions to ingest security alerts generated from all these sources. So we can automate things with like workflow automation. So when we get an alert generated, we can automatically create a ticket for that alert and make sure nothing gets missed. And obviously here we have the whole collaboration aspect where we can effectively communicate and collaborate amongst our team, which is often very essential during incident response. You can see some examples here. Some of these are more general, just IT ticket managing systems like Atlassian's Jira or ServiceNow, Freshworks. We also have some specific ones like OnPage. Next, we have network security monitoring or NSM. And this specifically focuses on the detection and mitigation of network-related threats and vulnerabilities. So these tools provide us with the capacity to monitor network traffic, analyze network behavior, and of course, identify potential incidents in real time based on different rule matching and anomaly detection and behavior detection. So we can do things like packet capture and analysis. So this allows us to actually capture and analyze network traffic in real time or retrospectively. And these packet captures can give us a detailed insight into the network communications and things like protocols, as well as source and destination IPs, the actual content within payloads, and many more capabilities. We can also do things like perform network traffic analysis and use techniques like statistical analysis, machine learning, and behavioral profiling to identify potential security threats. There's also some overlap here with our intrusion detection systems or our IDS systems, and some network security monitoring tools actually have built-in IDS functionality, which allows us to detect and respond to known and unknown security incidents in real time. So we can utilize things like signature-based detection, anomaly-based detection, and protocol analysis to identify and alert on suspicious network behavior. And of course, what would any of this log collection be if we cannot integrate it into a central repository, which of course we can do through integrations with our SIEM platform. And this integration enables the correlation of network security events with other security data like log data or endpoint telemetry and threat intelligence feeds, so we can start correlating and get a central security monitoring and incident response solution. And you can see some common examples here, and we're actually going to get hands-on with some of these, which I'm very excited for, like Snort and Sierra and Wireshark. And there's also things like Zeek and Nagios. So we've talked about IDS and IPS systems quite a bit actually, so let's get into what they actually are. So intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems are designed to monitor network traffic, detect potential security events, and take action to mitigate and prevent unauthorized access and malicious activities. So what is the difference, right? So an IDS system or a detection system is going to passively monitor the network traffic and analyze it for signs of malicious activity. And so they're specifically designed to detect security incidents and generate alerts based on their predefined criteria, like known attack signatures or anomalous behavior or different policy violations that we set up. An IPS system, on the other hand, is used to prevent attacks, and it actually builds upon the capabilities of an IDS by actively blocking or preventing detected threats in real time. So in addition to detecting security incidents, IPS systems have the ability to take automated actions and mitigate or stop malicious activities before they can cause harm to the network. And of course, both of these tools are going to have detailed logging information that we can then forward to a SIEM or a centralized management tool for more event correlation. And again, we have some similar players here. We have Snort, or Sierra or Zeek. This brings us to endpoint detection and response, or EDR. And these tools specifically focus on the protection of endpoint devices, such as laptops or desktops, servers, and even mobile devices. EDR tools are typically deployed with an agent that sits on the endpoint, which provides our organization with that sort of single pane of glass capacity to detect, investigate, and actually respond to security events as they occur at the endpoint level. So of course we have real-time endpoint monitoring. So an EDR tool or an agent is going to be continuously monitoring the endpoint device for any suspicious activities and behaviors. And behaviors is the main thing here. We can look at things like suspicious processes that are starting up, or parent-child relationships, or unauthorized access attempts, or known malicious downloads. By collecting all this telemetry, we can actually provide some real-time visibility into our endpoints. And this brings us into User Entity Behavior Analysis, or UEBA. And so our EDR tool is going to leverage behavioral analysis and behavioral capabilities to detect things like insider threats or compromised accounts by monitoring user and entity behavior on all the endpoint devices. So they can look at things like login patterns and user activity, file access behavior, when is a user typically accessing a file or logging into their system, and a number of other behavioral indicators to identify potentially anomalous or suspicious activities. We also have more general threat detection and prevention, so we can introduce things like signature-based detection, machine learning, and heuristics to identify and prevent even unknown security threats. So of course, an EDR tool is going to be almost crucial for us in incident response and incident investigation if we're dealing with an endpoint. which we often are. And through that, these tools are going to facilitate rapid response and remediation actions to mitigate these threats and contain incidents. We can do things like quarantine and isolate and roll back files, for example. We can kill processes and patch management all remotely to respond to incidents as they're occurring. And of course, all of the logs that we generate, all of the alerts from our EDR tools can and should be forwarded to our centralized logging capability, or our SIEM. And you can see some examples here. Of course, CrowdStrike Falcon. We have Sophos, Carbon Black, Sentinel One. There are many EDR tools out there. And next up, we have firewalls. And firewalls are a fundamental component of network security designed to monitor and control incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predefined security rules. And in the traditional sense, they kind of act as this barrier between a trusted internal network and an untrusted external network, such as the internet. We also have different types of firewalls depending on specific use cases and feature complexity. So we have the most common network firewall that you're probably familiar with. These are also known as just traditional or stateful firewalls, and they operate at that network layer or layer 3 of the OSI model. They examine packets of data as they pass through the firewall and make decisions based on factors like the source and destination IPs, the port numbers, and protocols. We also have the concept of next-generation firewalls, or NGFWs. And these are more advanced firewall solutions that integrate additional security features beyond the traditional network firewall's capabilities. They combine stateful packet inspection with more advanced security technologies like deep packet inspection, where they can actually open up individual packets and inspect them at that level. Or things like application awareness, because again, they work on that layer 7 or application protocol. And lastly, here we have the web application firewall, or the WAF. And these are specialized firewalls designed to protect web applications from a variety of web-based attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and other application layer vulnerabilities. And again, unlike traditional firewalls, these also operate on layer 7 because they're dealing with the application layer. And you can see some common examples here of firewall technologies like Palo Alto, SonicWall, pfSense, Juniper, F5, and more. Next, we have threat intelligence platforms. And these are designed to aggregate, analyze, and operationalize threat intelligence data to enhance our defenses and improve threat detection and response capabilities. So these platforms can aggregate threat intelligence data from a wide variety of sources like open source feeds, commercial providers, government agencies, or even specific industry groups. And they can then enrich our raw threat data by correlating and contextualizing it with this additional information, like threat actor profiles, malware characteristics, attack techniques, or even indicators of compromise. And IOCs, or indicators of compromise, might be things like hashes of known malware executables, or known malicious domains or IP addresses, or different tools that adversaries are using, or even like host and network artifacts on systems, or even the tactics and techniques themselves that adversaries use during an attack. We can also think about things like normalization and standardization, where this threat intelligence data is consistent and operable across many different sources and formats. And they use specific schemas and protocols, things like STIX and TAXII, which we're going to cover later on, which make it easier for security analysts to ingest and consume and analyze this threat intelligence data. And of course, we can integrate all of this within our SIEM, so we can actually get that data enrichment right from a single pane of glass. And we have a couple different examples here. We have OpenCTI, we have the MISP threat sharing platform, we have Maltego, or Maltego, however you want to pronounce it, as well as Recorded Future. Getting close to the end here, we have forensic analysis tools, and these are specialized pieces of software that are designed to collect, analyze, and interpret digital evidence from computer systems or networks or storage devices for the purposes of forensic investigations. And through these tools, we can do things like data acquisition and imaging, where we're actually creating forensic images or bit-by-bit copies of storage media so we can preserve the integrity of the original evidence. We can use tools that can perform file system analysis and actually extract metadata or file attributes, timestamps. We also have a suite of tools that can do memory forensics, so we can actually capture memory dumps from compromised systems. We can analyze that volatile memory, or RAM, for evidence of malicious activities, things like fileless malware, any modules or DLLs that were loaded, or even open network connections. We have tools for registry forensics, where we can actually uncover evidence of user activity and system configuration changes to find things like malware persistence mechanisms. Or even network traffic forensics, where we can look at things like network traffic logs or packet captures, which again, there's some overlap here with some of these tools. And we're going to be covering some of these tools in the digital forensics section, like autopsy and volatility. We also have the Eric Zimmerman tool suite, and things like CAPE and InCase as well. And lastly, here we have malware analysis tools, and these are specialized pieces of software that are designed to analyze and dissect malware to understand its behavior, functionality, as well as the impact on systems and networks. And it's also useful sometimes to know what types of threats and how advanced threat actors are who are targeting our organization. So we can do things like dynamic analysis, where we can actually execute and detonate malware samples in a controlled environment, like a virtual machine or a sandbox, so we can then monitor the behavior in real time. You can think about investigating a potential phishing email that contains a Word document attachment. You want to perform some dynamic sandbox analysis to determine if there are any malicious macros embedded inside that execute when it's opened. So we can observe and log the activities like file system modifications, registry changes, network communications, or processes that are being spawned. Basically any system interaction that helps us understand the malware behavior. There's also the concept of static analysis, where we can actually provide tools with a sample of malware for it to, without actually executing it, but focus on examining the file attributes and code structure, embedded resources, and metadata. There's also signature and pattern matching capabilities where we can look at known signatures or patterns or heuristics stored in malware databases and threat intelligence feeds so we can identify known threats and variants. And another way to say this is that we can integrate with our threat intelligence platforms to correlate analysis results with existing threat intelligence data and feeds. And to wrap this up, you can see some examples here. We have a screenshot of AnyRun, which is an interactive malware analysis suite. We also have other tools like Hybrid Analysis, Joe Sandbox, as well as Ghidra for actual reverse engineering purposes.